Weak glutes are a common issue that affect not only your lower back pain, but also the health and integrity of your hips, your knees, and your ankles. And when it comes to lower back pain, they can be a real barrier. Weak glutes being a barrier to the recovery of that lower back pain. They mean that your body cannot effectively transmit forces up from the ground and into the lower back, and also in vice versa, down from the body into that lower ground. They create maybe a degree of instability in the lower limb that means that the lower back has to work harder whilst it's injured. So in this particular video, we're going to go through a test in terms of test how your glutes are working in terms of stabilizing your lumbar spine, keeping this section nice and steady when we're holding our weight. And then we're also going to go through 3 exercises you can do in order to start to engage this section through here a little bit more effectively and start to ultimately strengthen your glutes and get a little bit more work done through this area to stabilize not only the hip, the knee and the ankle, but also the lower back, and improve your stability in the lumbar spine to help your lower back pain recover. Before we get into it, remember, you can always use the comment section below if you've got any questions as we're going through any of these. And there's going to be a timestamp. So if you are short of time, you can skip ahead to the relevant section and start from there. One of the first things we want to go through is, why are the glutes really relevant to lower back injuries? Well, most lower back injuries are going to affect the lower lumbar spine. These last 2 segments here, L4-5 and L5-S1. The nerves that come out of these sections that are frequently involved or implicated in lower back injuries control the muscles of the glute region. And that's not just the gluteal muscles themselves, but also some of those extra muscles in this region like TFL, piriformis, etc. It affects the functionality of these muscles, and also combined with interfered function, if we will, we also then often have weakness in this region, which kind of relates, and it creates this vicious cycle of weakness in the muscles, inappropriate signals from the lower back injury, and so on and so forth. Maybe there's some pain, some avoidance, etc. So this is an area that we really do need to take care of and focus on when we have a lower back injury. And also there might be, and it often is, that there are weaknesses in this area that have built up from modern lifestyle, spending too much time sitting, etc., that mean that the lower limb isn't as stable as it otherwise could be. And that's also wreaking havoc when we have that lower back injury, because now we have this era of instability, or area of instability, coming up maybe from one side more than the other, that affects tension and torsion as it comes, as weight and force comes up and down through this section of our spine. So if we can figure out and identify this relatively early, we can start to take steps to build the muscular strength in this region. And it's very easy to identify that, but it does take time for us to build up the musculature in this region. And that's where consistency comes in. Hopefully these exercises are really going to help you do that over time. So the very first thing we're going to be doing is going to be doing a test, and I'm going to demonstrate this for you with a chair in a moment. But essentially what we're looking at here is when we shift our weight onto the one leg, often what happens is our hip kind of sticks out like so, and we're not able to actually stabilize that spine effectively coming up as only one leg is interacting with the ground. Think about how many activities on a daily basis are going to be on one leg over the other, and the inability to control that limb is going to play a vital role in straining this area in a low-grade way on a daily basis. So let's get into the test. With this first test, we're going to help you identify the tilt, or the presence of this tilt, and actually get you to start feeling what's happening between being level and also being off. So what I've got is a chair behind me here. I've got a band more so you guys can actually see what I'm doing more than anything else. You don't need the band, but what you want to do is find the bony bits on the front of your hips, because that's where the band is going to sit. And I'm going to sit it across my stomach here, and all we're simply going to do is pop our back leg on here. So I'll use my right leg here, pop the back leg on, and the band should be nice and horizontal. Now when we make mistakes, the mistake that people make when they don't have their glutes engaged properly is they let themselves pop out like so. Okay, you see it throws your balance, so you want to bend your knee a little bit, and you pop our hips out like this. You can see immediately as I do this, my spine is going to be tilting, and I can tell because of the band I've got across my waist. You'll feel it too. But now what I want you to do is, as you're doing this, actually engage the muscles on the side here and square everything back off. And even if you want to, it's not a big deal if you overcorrect a little bit just as you're doing this particular test, but you'll actually feel the muscles on the side here engage. What you also feel as you do this is your foot will press into the ground a little bit more. You'll feel your calves engaging more. You'll feel the whole muscular chain engage as we go down and connect with the ground. When I stand like this, I can effectively relax, and hopefully you're experiencing this right now. I can effectively relax and kind of let my legs go loose, if you will. And therefore we don't have this effective engagement happening from the lower back, arguably, down this whole limb. So one more time, we engage these muscles on the side to square ourselves up. Our postural core muscles engage, our back muscles engage as well, with those muscles that are going down into the lower part of the foot, and everything is nice and stable. Now try this on both sides, because you might find actually the one side that hurts maybe is a bit better and the other side is weaker. And maybe it's the fact that actually the side that you've got the particular pain on is the one that's actually overworking because it's stable and the other side's not taking its fair share. It's, you know, swings and roundabouts as to which one of these you're going to suffer with, because you see people clinically that have a weakness and the weak side is the one that's painful. And other times we see the side that's compensating, the strong side, is the side that's painful. And there's not really much difference or much note between those two. It just is what it is. So now you've done that test, you've kind of got an establishment or an understanding or feeling, maybe even you're actually feeling a little bit of tension in that glute. Now you've worked it to do that sort of testing. You can appreciate a little bit more what's going on and what muscles need to be activated to stabilize this whole thing. We're gonna start off with these first two exercises and they're actually gonna be symmetrical, and then we're gonna go into the last exercise, which will not be symmetrical. That'll be asymmetrical to finish up. So with this first one, we're actually going to be doing a squat, but we're going to be using a glute band. Why are we using a glute band? Because if I demonstrate with a squat right now for you guys, and maybe I'll sit down into this chair, but as we go down, if our glutes are not working, our knees are going to roll in. So what we want to have is actually that knee position held in situ. Quite often, if you're someone that's really struggled with weak glutes, you actually, the process of just consciously engaging like so isn't really sufficient. You need something to press up against. So that's where the glute bands can really come in hand. And you can pick them up off the website. There'll probably be a link up here or down in the description where you can get them. But they're really, really useful tools. You can use them for all sorts of exercises. But what we're essentially going to do here, I'm using a heavy glute band here, is we stand in our comfortable squat position. And then we're having to get that feeling that we felt earlier when we were correcting our feet happening. So we set the knees in the right position, toes, knees are pointing slightly out, not perfectly parallel for me anyway. I like having a slightly open stance, and then we simply go through the squat. And what you'll notice is at different parts of the squat, you think, oh gosh, my legs, like here for me, all of a sudden I really feel it working. Then if I go a little bit deeper, it's a little bit easier, because different fibers of your glutes are going to have to maintain that knee stability at different points in the exercise. So we go through 10 reps here. So we just do 10 reps like so, really trying to keep those knees out the whole time and in a really steady position. And you'll start to feel the whole thing is really, really engaging as we're going through these reps. So that's the first exercise. Do 10 reps of that, and then we're going to get into the second one. Exercise number 2, we're going to do seated. Why are we doing it seated? As you probably saw in that last exercise, as I mentioned, as we go down lower, it becomes more difficult to maintain that glute position. Why is that? Because most of you, think how many times you're in this position loaded. Okay, most of the time you might be sat down in a chair, but your glutes aren't doing anything. And then we kind of pop ourselves out. We very rarely spend our time in this lower position, and therefore these glute fibers don't have to work like this on a daily basis. So that's where it's most effective to use the glute band. Again, we're going to do this one sitting down this time. I'm using a lighter band, mainly because using the heavy one on the last set and talking to you guys at the same time, got a little bit of a pump in here. So I'm going to be sensible and just use a little bit less weight. We don't need any egos while we're going through these demonstrations. It's about getting results, not trying to impress anyone. So this time we're going to sit in a position. Make sure you've got your bum in the back of the chair, your posture's nice and high, nice and tall, your core's engaged. For some of you, you might want to vary your torso position. You might want to lean a bit further forwards or lean a little bit backwards to try and find the point, as I mentioned in the last exercise, that gives you the most difficulty. You're in a very safe position here. We're sat down, we're good posture, we're engaged. We're only really focusing on one movement here. So this allows us to really start to focus in on those glutes. And all we're doing is feet planted on the ground and simply close and then open them out. Close, open out. And we're going to go through 10. I would always say you want to pause at the outside and then come back in. Open and pause at the outside and then come back in. And just go through 10 nice and slow reps here. And you're going to start to feel pressure seizing up in your hip region as those muscles start to engorge themselves with blood, get a nice good pump. And this is really important that we get that pumping sensation for the last exercise in this little routine. So take your time, go through 10 reps of these, and then we will get on to the last exercise. So we've done those first 2 exercises to really get a pump in the glutes. What we're going to do now is a split squat to finish up. So we're going to go back into that position that we did the test in, and we're going to get in that position and really think about engaging everything. Now we've got a bit of a pump in the glute region muscles. We've done, 20 repetitions of opening, engaging. It should start to become a little bit more subliminal, embedded in our movement right now because everything is active and engaged. So now we're going to simply go through on each leg 10 reps of the split squats, just coming down nice and steady. Really feel those things we mentioned earlier. Feel the glutes holding the knee out in its position as we go through the range of motion. Feel your feet planted firmly in the ground. Feel everything working continuously up through the body as we go through these repetitions of the split squat. Go through your 10 reps and then we can swap over to the other side and do the same. With all three of these exercises, it's helpful if you do it in front of a mirror. I've got the benefit of being able to see myself up here when I'm doing them so I can check my form a little bit better. You should be doing the same too. So try and get a mirror, or if nothing else, stand your smartphone up and watch yourself as you're doing these exercises. That way you can get that additional visual feedback. Sometimes it's only when we see ourselves do something from sort of the third person that we actually recognize we're not quite as good as we could be. And that's really helpful. And it's helpful for me when I'm training right now, and also when you guys are doing your rehab, wherever you are along the process, beginner, intermediate, or if you're advanced, always just having that moment to check back and check you are still doing what you think you're doing is really, really helpful. And it helps you pick up some additional refinement points when you're doing these exercises, because ultimately doing them correctly is what gets results. Hopefully this video has been helpful in giving you a better understanding of how we can do something practical, test, and then actually achieve an end by working these glute muscles to provide greater stability. And ultimately, if you can get on top of this over the next couple of weeks and months, you're going to find that you really can improve your back pain recovery and stabilize up your hips, knees, and ankles in the process. A little recommendation, I would suggest potentially adding this on to the end of your main routines, your main workout routines, just to supplement and focus a little bit of extra attention on this particular area. It's going to just help you continue with your normal training, but with that extra refinement part. Remember, you can go through this routine, 10 reps on each of the exercises, 3 times through is a nice way to just feed it in effectively. As always, if you did find this video helpful, give us a thumbs up. If you've got any questions, any comments, please do comment in the comment section below. It's there to help you guys, and it's how we understand how to make these videos as helpful as possible for you guys, and where we can give you those extra little tips or suggestions with regards to your form and your questions. If you did find this video helpful, consider subscribing to the channel for more videos just like this, and to stay up to date with our weekly Back in Shape podcast, where we cover a myriad of topics on back pain and everything else to really help you keep your back in shape, or get you back in shape in the best possible sense of the word. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next one.